whispers and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on Earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause. Welcome to The Probable Cause. This is a podcast originating in Allen County, Indiana. We cover northeastern Indiana, which is about 11 counties. I'm Jamie Duffy, your host, and to my left is Michael McAlexander, who is the co-host and the Allen County Prosecutor. He is invaluable for his insights into the legal system. Also contributing will be my right hand, that's what I call her. She wishes to remain anonymous. She learned the legal system the hard way. Her son was killed in December 16th. He was a victim of gun violence. And her knowledge is also invaluable. So today we're going to cover Title 4D. This is a program that regulates child support payments. You ask anybody who's involved in the program what Title 4D is, and they automatically know. They might have some other names for it. But those who don't know, like me, I wasn't aware there was a Title 4D. We're going to talk about that today. But first, let's get to the court news for the week. I thought, Mike, that I was maybe going to be covering a murder trial. If you could go into what's going on this week, we'd love it.
Well, this is one of those weeks where the best laid plans got all messed up. There were 2 speedy trials set, and then a murder case set. And the speedies, one of them was a gentleman who was going pro se, and he reached a conclusion, even though they tried to do some depositions at the last minute, that maybe he shouldn't be representing himself anymore. So he requested a continuance.
So that's one of the speedies.
The next one, there was our deputy prosecutor came down ill and couldn't proceed with it. And so then they
Wait a minute, was that the same one that you were talking about before?
No.
Okay.
This just happened yesterday.
Okay.
And then the murder case, apparently there was some issue with some evidence being presented, video evidence that was given. Our records indicate that it was given to the defense. The defense was either having trouble recovering it or finding it, and there was a lot of video in this particular case. So they were going to see if they could work that out and have the jury come back what would have been today, but they made the decision to go ahead and continue the case.
So in other words, you had selected the jury on that case?
No, we hadn't started jury selection yet.
And we could probably say which one this is because it's continued. Do we know continued until when?
I don't think they picked the new date yet.
Okay, so this is for an individual named Dominique Washington. He is not from Allen County. He is not from northeastern Indiana. He is from Richmond, I believe.
Well, at least that's where a lot of the activity in this case.
Right, and he is accused of bringing 2 people up here. We don't know exactly when they were killed. We'll find out in the trial, which I intend to cover. And and then the bodies were dumped in the St. Mary's River. So we had FWPD who did most of the detective work on it, and we had the Richmond PD, and it's just a really interesting case. And so we will definitely get to you when we're doing that.
We did have another drug dealing case, did go to trial yesterday. They waived a jury, so it was a bench trial in front of Judge Godfrey, and he determined that they got it all done in half a day yesterday. And
okay, so
we had a verdict by noon.
Do you want to just say a little bit about what is a bench trial? I guess there's no jury, but can you more explain that?
Yeah, I mean, you have a trial, your basis for evidence is the same, but instead of it being tried in front of a jury, it's tried in front of the judge, and the judge determines guilt or innocence.
So, was he found guilty?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll look that one up, maybe find the probable cause, maybe write it up for you all. Anyway, so on to Title 4D. Now, you ask any knockabout lad, you know, that's one of my phrases. These are people who don't have the best of circumstances when they're growing up, kind of has sometimes some trouble coming to terms with life and getting on the right path. They know what Title 4D is often because they have children. And here are some of the statistics that I found from the Indiana Department of Child Services about Title 4D, which requires in about 85% of the time the fathers to pay child support. This is according to Mike. In 2023, which are the latest stats I could find, 1.1 million people in Indiana are served or are involved in the Title 4D program. That translates to 304,000 children with an average age of 16, which I honestly found to be a little bit older when you consider that it could be from a child just born to 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 16, it says, is the average age.
Actually, to 19.
Oh, to
Our
19.
age of emancipation in Indiana is 19.
Oh, okay. Well, that gives them an extra year, which is nice. Anyway, then 4 out of 5 single Hoosier households are involved in the 4D program. And in Indiana, about $800 million is dispersed in child support. It is processed through the Indiana Support Enforcement Tracking System, which does sound serious, I must say. But I do want to say 1.1 million people, when you think about the population of Indiana, which is around 7 million, that's about a seventh of the people who live here. And so this is a very crucial, necessary system, whether you like it or not, because you are recouping money that goes to help children. I mean, to buy them food, to buy them clothing. You hope that it is spent in the right way. So Mike, tell us about Title 4D, as much as you know, and of course the role that Allen County plays, and how much money you recoup.
Well, we're in the bringing back money into the county. It fluctuates year to year, but usually between 35 and 40 million.
Wait a minute. We need to get my right hand on the phone.
Okay, as I was saying, we collect nearly $40 million each year. That goes back into homes and to parents here in Allen County. It puts food on the table. It's a program we're very proud of, and it is one of the, I think, best examples of a local, state, federal partnership that has worked very well for families to enforce their child support obligations. The program originally began in the late 70s as a way to get what was referred to as welfare payments that were paid out to families.
So we don't use that word anymore.
So
I guess.
Originally, the locals were empowered, and in Indiana, it's through the prosecutor's offices, to go ahead and enforce those support obligations. Over the years, a lot of additional tools have been provided to help do that. We also added paternity establishment. We can modify sentences. We can also emancipate when children reach a certain age. We also are empowered to collect arrearages well after a child is emancipated.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So emancipated at 19, you can still go back and...
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
I believe that we get some people from people that are drawing their Social Security.
Oh my gosh. It does say also that you will locate absent parents.
That is also part of what we do. And there's also agreements between the states so if a parent is in one state, they don't have to travel, hire an attorney to enforce the obligation in another state. It's called UIFSA. So there's a lot of tools, everything from well, the biggest one that brings in the most money is income withholding orders. And those are ones where we issue an order to an employer and they then take the child support out of the person's check.
Do we call that garnishing? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a synonym, I guess, to garnishment.
Right.
But in this particular situation, it's used as income withholding order is the magic language. But there are other tools that can be used as well. License suspension, suspending somebody's passport, bank accounts can be seized. Another big one is income tax refunds.
Oh.
So there's just a lot of different tools. Things have been added. There was a major enhancement to the program done in the late 90s, 1997, 1998, that gave more tools to be used. And actually a third of our office, roughly about 40 employees in our office, are dedicated to the collection of child support.
So if you collect between $35 and $40 million, what does it cost the prosecutor's office, 40 people, to chase after this?
Well, this is where the partnership kind of comes in. And the federal government reimburses us for 66% of the cost of our employees and any other costs we have associated with child support.
So, Mike, how much, how I guess not how much, but when you suspend somebody's driver's license or even go to the point of putting them in jail, how much income are they losing by not being able to go to work because they don't have a driver's license?
I was going to ask the same.
Because they're in jail.
You're looking for different enforcement tools. If we take somebody's license, what we're really usually looking for is to get their attention and have them make a good faith effort to support their children. So we will come to an agreement with them for them to pay. And what we're looking for is regular payments. As I've always said in child support enforcement, it's nice when you get a nice big lump sum payment, which a lot of people kind of do that through their tax intercept. The problem is the custodial parents' bills come up every month, every week. They just can't sit back and get nothing for a long period of time. What we're striving for is a consistent revenue stream for that family so that they don't have to worry about having enough money to buy groceries or paying the utility bill. So
would you say the driver's license suspension is like the last thing that you want to do?
I wouldn't say it's the last thing, but what we found is different tools are meaningful to different people. Some people, if you take away their fishing license, they'd rather give up their driver's license than their fishing license or
Actually, I know
license.
somebody that happened to. You really do take away their hunting licenses.
Mm-hmm. We also intercept gambling winnings.
Oh, well, that, I don't have any problem with that, honestly.
In the early 80s, they went ahead and expanded the program to just not going after essentially welfare payments. They expanded it so virtually anyone can sign up to get the services. So as we've seen our what they used to call out-of-wedlock births, births without being in a marriage, we establish paternity. And those numbers have changed over the years. Back in the 50s, they were a single digit of the children born in the United States were not in a marriage. It had expanded by the 90s into about a third in Allen County of the births were without a marriage.
Wow. So when you
thought it was higher than that.
It is higher than that now.
You guys are cynics. Establishing paternity, how do you go about doing that? Do you do a blood test?
There's a couple of different ways. One of the tools we were given back in the late 90s was the paternity affidavit that is done usually at the hospital on the birth of the child. So the father can sign that. If mother and father both sign it, he has 60 days to request a rescission of it if some new information comes up. After that, it's considered that paternity is established. The other way is to file a petition with the court, set it for a hearing, have the people come in, and generally now on those, if somebody doesn't admit, we will do a genetic test to confirm the parentage.
So, my right hand, do you have any more questions for Mike? I've got a couple of anecdotes I want us to discuss.
I guess my understanding of somebody in jail or taking their driver's license is counterintuitive to collecting money from them. But I would assume that it's like they're not working anyway. They don't have a job. Like somebody that has a good job and is making an effort, they're not going to get put in jail or lose their license.
No, and if they have a valid reason why they can't work, a medical condition is probably the most common one. The court will look at that. In those situations, we usually encourage them, if it's that significant, to request Social Security disability. That's what that program is for. And if that happens, then there's usually an award given to dependents.
Can you push that application along?
No.
Okay.
We can encourage them to go through with it.
Because, I understand trying to get disability, you might have to try 2 or 3 times, and you honestly need a law firm to help you.
Yeah, sometimes that's true.
So,
you bring up the question about enforcement, and it is kind of a mixed bag. I know when I first started doing child support 30 some years ago, there was that kind of traditional attitude of, I want to get the biggest order and I want to enforce this, and if you don't pay it, I'm going to throw you in jail, kind of thing. Over the years,
deadbeat dad
the old
syndrome.
Deadbeat dad. And once you got into the program, you realize that it's not quite that simple. It doesn't make a lot of sense to push an order on somebody that they have no chance of paying. And so the goal is to get a right-sized order that does not put either party in such a position of disadvantage that they can't comply. And it is a little counterintuitive. I think one of the things you're going to mention later are people that get incarcerated. Let's assume good motives for somebody who goes to prison for 5 years. But if we didn't modify the sentence, they would come out after that. And even on a minimum order of $40, $50 a week, they were going to come out with owing several $1,000s. With no real assets and the burden of having a felony conviction over their heads. So their ability to get a good job and to start paying was very limited. And if you then threw that they owed $5,000 or more as they stepped out of prison, it wasn't exactly a hopeful environment for them to get back in touch with their kids and to become a supportive parent. So there's been case law like on that happened, I think it was around 15, 16 years ago, that modified how we handled that. But it is a delicate kind of balance when you have folks that just refuse to pay. And we do have the ability to bring a criminal charge as well as civil contempt actions against people that essentially willingly refuse to make
So in other words, a
payments.
criminal charge would be something like non-support of a dependent?
Yes.
Okay. I think I've seen that. There was a paradigm shift for the 4D program, according to the Indiana Department of Child Services, that they're the people who run this program for the state. Am I correct? Okay. Yes. It used to be a focus on cost recovery, set orders high, the higher the better, which you were just talking about. Wait until arrears accumulate before enforcement. And the program was seen as representing the custodial party. That was in the past. Now today, the state says, DCS says, we focus on the best interest of the child.
Yes.
Okay. We serve both parents. That means the custodial and the non-custodial, although I think some of them have joint custody.
What we usually do on that is try to get across, and there's a statute to this effect. We represent the best interest of the child through the state of Indiana. We don't represent mom. We don't represent dad. Over the years, because of things like the bad dad kind of reference.
Deadbeat dad. Let's get that straight.
We generally refer to it as custodial parent and non-custodial parent.
So it's a little bit more of a mouthful, but we know what you're talking about. Focuses on support to families, not government repayment.
Yes.
Okay.
I think when it was opened up to everyone, it became less of a recovering the money spent by the government. But that is still a component of what we do and how we are measured as a program.
Well, yeah.
We are evaluated based on cost efficiency, paternity establishment, percentages of the amounts that are owed, that are collected, and the number of cases that we collect on arrearages.
So you do have some pressure on you in the prosecutor's office to get this right.
Yes, and there's what are called incentive payments that are out there, that an amount of money is divided between all of the different states and collection areas that can then be used to incentivize the program, needs to be spent on the program, but it encourages you to do more enforcement work.
So it also says setting right-sized orders, which you just brought up. So in other words, you take a look at somebody's salary, what they're making every week, and then you say, okay, this guy could probably, considering what housing costs and food costs and all that, I'm just assuming all of this now so you can correct me, then he will pay this much. You said the bottom is sort of like $50 a week?
Yeah, if you base it on minimum wage.
Oh, okay. Which is still only $7.25.
Yeah, it's 41 or something like that. But Indiana does, and I think most states have do this. We have a child support worksheet guidelines. We also have a chart that for this amount of income for one kid, you should pay this amount of child support.
Oh.
Then it can be adjusted based on if you have prior children and other cases that you're paying on. There's other factors. Child care expense can be added to it. Parenting time can alter if there's a more even split between the parents as to the number of days they have visitation with the child.
But I mean, what if the custodial spouse works? Do you take that salary into consideration?
Yeah.
So
to put it very broadly, the goal is to look at this as a family. If they were still together, or if maybe they were never really together, but if they were together, take both parents' incomes, and then you'd be looking at, okay, what kind of lifestyle, what would a family making that amount of money put to the raising their children? So it gets very statistical on that part of it, and trying to keep up with current rates of inflation and
So do you have to deal with, like, these people have attorneys who might get kind of pushy about that? My client can't afford that. Do you have to deal with those people too?
Yes.
Or do you just use your guidelines?
There's always room for deviation for good reasons. And that's what a lot of the cases that we do, the vast majority of the 4D cases we do are without lawyers on the other side.
So in other words, they're kind of people who don't have that much money.
The majority, yes, but there's also a lot of people that, from the enforcement standpoint, maybe they hire an attorney if there's a custody dispute or a divorce, or they want to modify the support. They get an attorney for that. And then instead of paying them for the enforcement, they'll have them sign up for our program.
I mean, I could see where a high-profile divorce could even end in like a big mess. Well, I'm not paying, and you know, and then you kind of, it's almost like you mediate.
I liken us more to, I mean, our traditional function as the prosecutor's office is we help an investigative agency determine whether a crime was committed. We file the paperwork, we issue the warrant, we get the case set for trial, and we go. In most of our child support, other than the paternity establishment, we are not initiators of what's going on. We are enforcing a prior court order or modifying the prior court order.
So there is that one TV show, I think it is called Paternity Court. I'm just envisioning some melees here. So anyway, we found out about what it takes to live. How do they come up with percentages? Do they take into account the father's access? And that's where I want to get into a couple of anecdotes that I have. They are real life situations. Obviously, I am not going to name these people. I'm not going to give any more hints as to their circumstances. But this is a woman I heard from. The father of her child was convicted of drug dealing. Before that, she did not want her child around this guy because of what went on in the home. So he threatened her. He said, well, I'm going to throw you into contempt of court. She said, fine. Let me go to the hearing and I will tell them what's going on. Okay, so she was not afraid of that. Now, then when he got arrested, she said, I was able to do nothing. They sent me a letter saying that he had a significant change of circumstance, i.e., he is incarcerated. And by the time he gets out, the child will have aged out of the system, and he won't owe anything. So he won't owe a penny. Now that is according to this woman. It is an Allen County case. I'm not going to say who it is, but do either one of you have comments on that?
Sure. We look at issues of visitation as a separate issue. It's one that the 4D program does not get involved in. We are not permitted to litigate those issues. The same thing with child custody. However, there are times when we may assist in getting the parties in front of a judge or a magistrate because they need to be able to share those issues with the court. Mm-hmm. And there is a valid basis, because usually if there's that kind of a battle going on, there's either a claim that I've not been allowed to visit, so the custodial parent should be held in contempt, and that's the reason I'm not paying. Legally, we separate those issues, the visitation and the payment of child support. If you feel like you're being restricted in your visitation beyond the court order, you have the right to petition the court for a hearing to go in and state your case and request some form of relief that could result in either lowering the child support order or admonishing or finding the custodial parent in contempt.
So it's kind of up to the judge.
Yes.
Okay.
But legally, we keep those issues separate. It's not a valid excuse to say, I'm not paying support because she won't let me see my kid. Even though, as a parent, as a human being, I understand that, but there are remedies available for you. And in really bad situations, the court can go so far as to terminate
parental rights.
Well, at least the payment of support.
Oh.
So, but the opposite of that I've known to happen as well, where the custodial parent said, you're not paying support, so I'm not going to let you have visitation. That's not legal either,
no,
right?
That's right. that's why what I'm saying is both issues they're not supposed to be put together as a quid pro quo for the other one. But a lot of people do that, unfortunately. But that's where if you can get into court, the court will explain why they're not going to permit that.
And just think, there's over 300,000 children every year who are involved in these situations. And 1.1 million people, a seventh of our state is, I'm sure, I mean, how many times is it actually smooth? Yeah, take 10% of my,
Surprisingly, there's a lot of contentious behavior on both sides. There are some non-custodial parents that pay regularly and are treated poorly by the custodial parent. There are custodial parents that are very, in my view, forgiving of very erratic payment histories by their former spouse. It is really a kind of a testament to human nature. There are some people, that check is a day late, they want us to put the non-custodial parent in jail. There are other people that are very tolerant of different behaviors. And
a day late, and they want them in jail.
And you see it on both sides. It's not just the deadbeat dad kind of thing. They're deadbeat moms, if you will. But there's
oh, I'm sure.
There's a lot of people that should be mad and they accept it. Others that maybe shouldn't be that mad. And they make kind of unreasonable demands sometimes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of reasons to be frustrated in this area, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the breakup of however the original relationship began, whether it was in a marriage or a fleeting moment in the night.
Yeah.
That it's very interesting how people respond to that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it literally was a one-night stand. Mm-hmm. And then this turns out to be the dad or the mom. And that's when you can get a little judgmental about the whole thing. It's like, don't you people, well, never mind. Okay, so here's another one I was going to run by you, and this is my second one and my final one here. So there's a guy, he's from the area. I'm not going to say what county, but all I'll say is that it's not Allen County. And his ex is remarried. I will say that they're in Wabash County, which is not our region. Not that we're all saints in the 11 counties that make up northeastern Indiana. But he's got a good job now. He sends several $100s every 2 weeks for the support of his, I believe it's 2 children. They're not babies by any means. He was coaching one of the teams. I'm not going to say what sport because I don't want to give anything away. So, like I said, she's remarried, and he's being pushed to the side like he's unimportant. And like I said, I see this, we serve both parents, and I would love to know, because it's heartbreaking. I just talked to him via Facebook a couple of nights ago. He said, I don't know what's going on, that he is being kept, but I can only just see that the ex and her new husband just want to cut him out of the kids' lives.
But in a single case, you don't represent both sides, right, Mike? Like, whoever files is who you represent. I mean, you say you represent the child, but in the same case, you can't come in representing the dad and the mom.
No, and that's why I say we represent the state and the best interests of the child. We have to make it very clear that we don't represent either of the parents. But in that situation, again, it depends on what the basis for it is. When you say they're shutting
malice.
Well, when you say they're shutting out, they're trying to create a new family. Are they restricting his visitation? If so, he has a remedy to go to court himself, and if they're violating the court order. If it's more of an emotional thing, that is really hard to regulate human behavior that way, to make people do the right thing if it's not against the law.
I mean, I just think of the kids involved in this. I mean, all of a sudden, I looked him up. He's not a drug dealer. He's got some driving suspensions, this kind of thing. I can just picture it because I know people who have gone through divorces where they will really try and put down, somebody and make that non-custodial parent like into the devil or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like this guy, it's so sad because maybe by the time they hit 18 or 19, they're just going to have this idea of that father as being a loser, when he's actually paying. He's, as far as I can tell, he's not a criminal. And,
Well, I think that's where you get into, the law can only take things so far. I think there's a column in the Journal-Gazette every Sunday, I forget what it's called, but it deals with good ex etiquette.
Really?
And the columnist has, 10 rules for being a good parent and a good ex-partner. And a lot of it is just be a nice human being, treat people the way you would like to be treated. But if it's not against the law, and it does put a limitation, and some people are mean or they think they're doing the right thing. But in general, in these family relationships, I think both parents need to remember that what they do is going to impact their children.
Yes.
And excluding the other parent, unless it is definitely justified due to endangerment or negative behavior, drugs, stuff like that, that person's going to be their parent. And if you exclude them from him or her up to age 18 or 19, they then get to make the choice on their own, and that may boomerang back on the other parent.
Yeah, you would think so.
So, I mean, there's so many different ways these things can go behaviorally. But I know for the program that we're operating, we're trying to assist, but we're really not allowed to get into some of those areas. But
I can imagine some of the frustration that your 40 employees go through down there on the first floor.
And the program participants don't always understand those niceties of ethical representation and where our lines end. And they expect things from us that we can't provide.
Right. They want revenge. They want to get even. They want to give me my money, and he's a bit of deadbeat, and I can... Oh, boy.
Runs the gamut of human emotion.
There must be a lot of, teaching conferences for these people. So, last words, anybody? Because we're going to have to sign off. I think we might have gone a bit long today, but this is a very important topic. Oh, we are? Oh, okay. So, anything else on the Title 4D program, which is very important to the entire state of Indiana and obviously to Allen County?
I think Mike did a great job explaining how the program works. Thank you very much, Mike.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, as I said, I think a good program. There's that line about we're from the federal government and we're here to help you. People get a little suspicious of government. But I think this one has not as much. It has bureaucracy, don't get me wrong. We have our issues sometimes with our state and federal partners about what's really going on the ground. But for the most part, I think this works pretty well. It's matured into a program that tries to treat people fairly and takes into account all of these kind of emotional issues that come in to raising a family. And we're trying to do our part by taking some of the financial heat off of everybody.
I think that's a great idea. And, maybe we could hear from somebody who's been through the program someday, not next week necessarily, but someday. I was like, yeah, it worked for me. My right hand, you got anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, until next week, this has been The Probable Cause, a podcast here in Allen County, but we cover all kinds of things, as you can see, that relate to other states too. You can find us on www.theprobablecause.com. That's where I post all my stories. I'm finding some probable causes. I'll probably write up this drug dealing case that Mike was talking about earlier, that the drug dealer was found guilty. And we also have a dedicated Facebook page where a lot of our podcasts are going on. I think this is number 7, so we're getting a collection going. And then, of course, we'll be on social media. But I think the main places to find us are on YouTube, www.theprobablecause.com, and our Facebook page. And until the next time, thank you for listening. This episode is filmed and edited by Frosty Pictures. The Probable Cause is produced by Maumee Media.